Protesters ransacking stores. We know more than 700 businesses have been damaged so far in all of this. I do want to bring in now Jamil Jaffer, founder and executive director of the National Security Institute. Jamil, thanks so much for being here.
Thanks for having me, Natasha.
Jamil, I mean, it's really just incredible, some of this video that's coming in. What is your take on all of this? We're in the fifth night now.
Well, obviously, very concerning things taking place in France, both with the shooting of this individual and then the response to it from the French public. We've seen significant protests, not just in Paris itself, but in other cities, as well as in French territories overseas. We've seen folks arrested and detained. A number of, as you point out, 45,000 police deployed across the country to protect against these protests. But there clearly is a sense in France of frustration and unhappiness with the situation. But remember, Natasha, this also goes back to what happened earlier this year with the pension reforms, which also led to over 1 million protesters in a single day in France about those reforms as well.
That is actually a really important piece of context, and I think lays the groundwork for the situation we're seeing right now. And certainly here at home in the U.S., we have seen situations that have led to protests that are similar. George Floyd and Breonna Taylor. This shooting, like the others, certainly stirring up long simmering tensions involving police. What can be done for people to regain trust in police?
In a lot of ways, it's some of the things that need to be done here in the United States and are being done here in the United States is rebuilding that relationship between minority communities and policing. At the end of the day, the police are there to serve the community and to protect the community. And if there's not trust between the communities they serve and law enforcement, it can't work. And that trust, Natasha, runs both ways. It's incumbent on both sides of that equation, the public and the police, to rebuild those forms of trust. It's hard to do. It's been hard in the United States, but it's critical, and it's just as critical in France and over other countries as well.
Yeah, and right now it's not clear how much longer these protests will continue. I mean, we're talking about these 45,000 police officers dispatched to help deal with this. At this point, what further measures would you expect the French government will be taking to tackle this if it continues into a seventh day?
Well, they've been closing down railways and places of public accommodation as well, bus lines. The metro has been closed early in a variety of cities. Some metro stops in Paris itself have been closed as well. So what the French government is trying to do is essentially trying to, turn down the temperature. But of course, as the protesters get more violent, as they attack businesses, police are forced to respond. And that itself creates more tension, creates more anger. And so the way these things usually end, Natasha, at least as we've seen in the United States, is a significant deployment of capability by the government, oftentimes involving the military in a nationalized way in order to stop protests from continuing. That's a tough situation to put the police and the military in. But that is oftentimes how these riots come to an end.
We are in the middle of summer and travel as well. And I know some are wondering, is it safe for Americans to travel to France right now? What should Americans do if they are there? Any advice around that?
Well, the most important thing to do is to obviously let the State Department know if you're overseas so that they're aware where you are and they can communicate with you. Oftentimes, American embassies will send alerts to our nationals about what's going on in a given country, about ways of exiting if they need to. And so it's important to register yourself with the State Department and the local embassy if you happen to be in a country where challenges are taking place, ideally ahead of time.
What if you have travel planned there? At this point, is it safe to travel to France?
It's hard to know because I don't think anybody expected, not President Macron, and probably not the protesters themselves, that these protests would go along as long as they have. We're in, as you point out, the fifth night of these protests, and they continue to be large. A large number of people continue to be detained by the authorities. And so it's unclear how long this will continue for. I think as a general matter, France is a safe place to travel to, but what these ongoing activities, it's hard to say in the next few days whether it remains safe.
Yeah, okay. And we really appreciate you helping us break it down. As always, Jamil Jaffer, thank you.